A lonely CEO took a blind date for his friend and fell for a poor girl instantly. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, it is free, and it is the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories like this one. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from today? Please drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The restaurant was already buzzing when he walked in. Soft conversation filled the air, glasses clinked gently, and warm yellow lights reflected off polished wood and white tablecloths. It was the kind of place people came to celebrate promotions, anniversaries, or deals worth millions of dollars. Ethan Walker did not belong here tonight. Not like this. He paused just inside the doorway, straightening the sleeves of his tailored jacket, feeling the familiar weight of loneliness settle in his chest. This dinner was never supposed to be his. The blind date had been arranged for his best friend, a last desperate attempt to push him back into the dating world after a messy breakup. But an emergency call, a delayed flight, and one impulsive favor later, Ethan was here instead. Just sit down, explain it politely, and leave, he told himself. He checked the message again. Table 7, near the window. As he walked through the restaurant, he noticed her before she noticed him. She was already standing by the table, nervously smoothing the fabric of a simple dress that clearly did not belong in a place like this. Her shoes were worn at the edges, her hands fidgeted with the strap of a faded purse. She kept glancing at her phone, then toward the entrance, then back again, as if worried she might disappear if she stood still too long. When their eyes met, her face lit up with visible relief. "You must be Daniel," she said quickly, offering a shy smile that carried more hope than confidence. "I am so sorry. I was afraid I was late." Ethan froze for half a second. This was the moment he was supposed to explain everything. That he was not Daniel. That he was only here as a favor. That this was all a misunderstanding. But something about the way she looked at him stopped him. There was no calculation in her eyes. No curiosity about his watch or his jacket, just nerves, sincerity, and a quiet determination to make a good impression. "Yes," he heard himself say. "I am. Please, sit." She let out a small breath of relief and took the seat across from him. "I am Lily," she said. "Thank you for coming. Blind dates are always awkward, right?" Ethan nodded, forcing a faint smile. "They can be." The server arrived with menus, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Lily glanced around the restaurant, clearly aware of how out of place she felt, but she lifted her chin anyway, as if refusing to let fear win. "So," she said softly, "what do you do?" Ethan hesitated. "I work in business," he replied carefully. She laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine warmth. "That sounds important. I work 2 jobs, one during the day, one at night. Nothing impressive, but it keeps the lights on." There it was. Honesty. No pretending. No performance. Ethan felt something shift inside him. For the first time in years, he was not being seen as a title, a net worth, or a powerful name. To her, he was just a man sitting across the table, slightly nervous, trying to make conversation on a blind date that had started with a mistake. And in that quiet moment, as the hum of the restaurant faded into the background, Ethan realized something he had not expected at all. Taking this blind date for his friend might have been a mistake, but meeting Lily did not feel like one. The menu rested unopened between them, but Lily barely noticed it. She sat a little straighter in her chair, shoulders tense, as if good posture alone could help her belong in a place like this. Restaurants like this were not meant for people like her. She knew that the moment she stepped inside and felt every dollar she owned weighing on her chest. Lily Harper had almost canceled this date. She thought about it earlier that afternoon, standing in the narrow bathroom of her shared apartment, staring at her reflection in a mirror with a crack running through the middle. Her dress was clean, but old, bought years ago from a clearance rack. Her shoes had been resoled twice. She brushed her hair carefully, telling herself that effort still mattered, even when money did not stretch far. This blind date was not about romance. Not really. It was about hope. Hope that maybe, just once, life would surprise her in a good way. Across the table, Ethan noticed the way her fingers tightened around her water glass. He noticed how she smiled before she spoke, like she was bracing herself for disappointment. "So," Lily said, clearing her throat softly, Daniel told me you were quiet. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Did he? She nodded, embarrassed. He said you worked a lot and did not talk much about yourself. I guess that makes sense. It does, Ethan replied gently. What she did not know was that silence had become his shield. Years of boardrooms, negotiations, and carefully chosen words had taught him that speaking less often meant revealing less of himself. Yet with Lily, the quiet felt different. It felt like space instead of armor. Lily took a small sip of water, then continued, her voice steady but cautious. I almost did not come tonight. I work a double shift tomorrow, and I should probably be home sleeping already. Then why did you come? Ethan asked. She hesitated, then shrugged. Because sometimes, if you keep saying no, nothing ever changes. That answer stayed with him. Lily was used to calculating everything. Every grocery trip, every bus ride, every hour of sleep. There was no safety net waiting for her if she fell. Her parents had passed years ago, leaving behind debt instead of comfort. Since then, life had been a careful balance of survival and stubborn optimism. She worked at a small neighborhood cafe during the day and cleaned offices at night. The hours were long, and the pay barely covered rent, utilities, and groceries. But she did not complain. Complaining did not pay bills. I like my job at the cafe, she said suddenly, as if worried the silence might be misread. It is not glamorous, but people are kind, most of the time. Ethan smiled. Kind matters. It does, she agreed, more than people think. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, worn notebook, setting it on the table between them. The edges were bent, the cover soft from use. I sketch sometimes, she admitted, her cheeks warming. Nothing serious, just when my mind gets too loud. Ethan glanced at the notebook, then back at her. That is not nothing. Lily laughed quietly. Tell that to my landlord. For a moment, the weight of her reality hung in the air. Not heavy enough to crush the conversation, but real enough to be felt. Ethan did not try to fix it. He did not offer advice or empty encouragement. He simply listened. And that, more than anything, surprised her. Most people either pitied her or looked past her. Ethan did neither. He looked at her like her words mattered, like her life was not something to rush through politely. As the server returned to take their order, Lily realized something that unsettled her in the best possible way. For the first time in a long while, she was not thinking about how much dinner would cost, how late the bus would run, or how early she would have to wake up. She was present, and she had no idea that this quiet, ordinary moment was already setting the stage for a truth that would change everything. The food arrived quietly, placed between them with practiced ease, plates arranged carefully, steam rising, the soft clink of silverware briefly filling the space before the server stepped away again. Lily stared at the dish in front of her for half a second longer than necessary. It looks expensive, she said, with a small, nervous smile. Ethan noticed it immediately. The way her eyes scanned the plate, the way her shoulders tightened, as if she were preparing herself for a consequence that had not happened yet. It is just dinner, he said calmly. She nodded, but her fingers lingered near the edge of the table. I know. I just do not usually eat at places like this. That does not make it less yours, Ethan replied. She looked up at him then, surprised, truly surprised. People rarely said things like that to her without irony or obligation. Lily picked up her fork and took a cautious bite. Her eyes softened almost instantly. This is really good, she admitted, laughing under her breath. Okay, maybe a little too good. Ethan smiled, watching her relax just a little. There was something grounding about the way she experienced small pleasures fully, without pretense. It reminded him of a time before his life became a series of meetings, deadlines, and carefully measured outcomes. As they ate, the conversation drifted naturally, not toward ambitions or achievements, but toward quieter things. What do you do when you are not working? Ethan asked. Lily paused, then reached for the worn notebook again, turning it slowly in her hands. I draw. People. Places. Things I wish I could afford to travel to. Why people? He asked. Because faces tell stories, she said simply. Sometimes better than words. She hesitated, then opened the notebook just enough to show him one page. A pencil sketch of a woman sitting at a bus stop, shoulders hunched, eyes tired but alert. There was no background, no detail beyond the figure itself. That is me, Lily said quietly. After a night shift. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. "It is honest," he said. "That is rare." Lily smiled, then closed the notebook, suddenly shy. "It is just something I do. I do not show it to many people." "I am glad you showed me," he replied. There it was again, that feeling, the sense that she was not trying to impress him, and yet everything about her presence was quietly impressive. She changed the subject, perhaps sensing the moment lingered too long. "What about you? What do you do when you are not working?" Ethan leaned back slightly, choosing his words with care. "I read. I run. I try to remember what silence feels like." "That sounds lonely," she said, not unkindly. He met her gaze. "Sometimes it is." The honesty surprised them both. Outside the restaurant, night had settled fully. Streetlights glowed through the windows, and the reflection of the city shimmered across the glass. Time felt slower here, as if the world had decided to leave them alone for a while. Lily glanced at the clock on the wall and stiffened. "I should not stay too late. I have to be up early." "Of course," Ethan said. "We can go whenever you are ready." She hesitated again. "Would it be strange if we walked a little first?" Not at all. They stood together, and as Ethan reached for his jacket, Lily noticed something then. Not the label, not the fit, but the way he moved. Calm, unhurried, like someone who did not often need to rush. She did not know it yet, but that instinctive observation would matter later. As they stepped outside into the cool evening air, Lily hugged her purse closer to her side, the notebook safely tucked inside. She had come tonight expecting nothing. Instead, she was leaving with the quiet, unsettling sense that something important had just been planted, something fragile and real, waiting for the right moment to reveal its weight. They walked side by side down the block, the restaurant fading behind them as the city settled into its nighttime rhythm. Traffic moved steadily, tires brushing against pavement, distant horns softened by the cool air. Lily adjusted her pace instinctively, matching Ethan without thinking about it. "I usually take the bus," she said, breaking the silence. "But tonight, I think I can walk a bit." "I am glad," Ethan replied. "It feels like one of those nights that should not be rushed." She smiled at that, a quiet, private smile meant only for herself. They passed a small coffee shop on the corner, its lights still on, a handwritten sign in the window advertising fresh pie. Lily slowed, glancing inside. "Do you want to stop?" Ethan asked. She hesitated. "I should not. I really should not." He waited, not pushing. After a moment, she laughed softly. "Okay, just for a few minutes." Inside, the cafe was nothing like the restaurant they had just left. The chairs did not match. The counter showed signs of wear. A soft song played from an old speaker behind the bar. Lily visibly relaxed, as if her shoulders finally remembered how to rest. "This place feels more like me," she admitted. Ethan nodded. "It feels real." They ordered simple coffee and sat by the window. The conversation resumed easily, no longer careful, no longer guarded. Lily talked about the cafe where she worked, about regular customers who came in every morning, about the old man who tipped in loose change but always asked about her day. "He remembers my name," she said. "That counts for something." "It counts for a lot," Ethan said. She looked at him, studying his face as if trying to place something she could not quite name. "You listen differently than most people." "How so?" "You are not waiting for your turn to talk," she said. "You actually hear what I am saying." Ethan felt that quiet shift again, the one he had felt across the dinner table. With Lily, listening did not feel like a skill. It felt like a relief. "And you," he said, "are not trying to be anything other than who you are." She laughed lightly. "I do not have the energy to pretend." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching people pass outside. Lily traced the rim of her cup with her finger, then spoke again more softly. "Can I ask you something personal?" "You can ask," Ethan said. "Why did you agree to this blind date?" she asked. "You do not seem like someone who needs to be pushed into meeting people." Ethan looked out the window, choosing honesty without giving everything away. "I spend most of my time around people who want something from me. This felt uncomplicated." Lily nodded, understanding more than he expected. "I know that feeling. People either want help or they want to be saved. It gets tiring." Their eyes met, and for a second, the noise of the city disappeared. There was no rush, no performance, no expectation hanging between them, just two people sharing a moment that felt unexpectedly rare. When Lily glanced at the time again, her expression changed. I really do have to go now. I know, Ethan said. I do not want to keep you. They stood, stepping back out into the night. At the bus stop, Lily tightened her jacket against the breeze. This was nice, she said, then added quickly. I mean, nicer than I expected. So was I, Ethan replied. She smiled, then reached into her purse and pulled out the small notebook again. Without thinking too much, she tore out a page and wrote something quickly, then handed it to him. My number, she said, in case you ever want to talk again. No pressure. Ethan took the paper, careful, like it was something fragile. I would like that. The bus pulled up with a low hiss, doors opening. Lily stepped on, then paused, turning back. Thank you, she said. For tonight. As the bus pulled away, Ethan stood alone on the sidewalk, the paper warm in his hand. He had come here as a favor. He was leaving with something he had not planned for at all. And he knew, even then, that this quiet beginning was already leading somewhere neither of them could see yet. The next morning, Lily woke before her alarm. For a brief moment, she lay still in the dim light of her room, listening to the distant sound of traffic outside the window and the soft breathing of her roommate in the other bed. Her body ached the way it always did after a late night, but her mind was unusually alert. She reached for her phone. No messages. She told herself not to feel disappointed. They had only just met. She had given him her number without expectations, without promises. Still, the memory of his calm voice and the way he listened lingered longer than she wanted to admit. By the time Lily arrived at the cafe for her morning shift, the place was already alive. The smell of coffee filled the air, and the familiar rhythm of orders and greetings settled her nerves. She tied her apron, slipped into routine, and pushed the night before to the back of her mind. Ethan, meanwhile, stood in his penthouse kitchen staring at the same piece of paper he had unfolded 3 times already. Lily's handwriting was neat but slightly uneven, like someone who wrote quickly but carefully. He folded it again, then finally reached for his phone. He typed the message slowly. I enjoyed last night. I hope your shift is going well. He hesitated, then pressed send. At the cafe, Lily felt her phone vibrate in her pocket as she wiped down the counter. She froze, then pulled it out discreetly. When she saw his name, her lips curved into a smile she did not try to hide. Yeah, she murmured to herself. I did too. They did not text much that day, just a few short messages between orders and meetings. But each one felt intentional, thoughtful, real. 2 days later, Lily was closing the cafe when she heard someone clear his throat gently behind her. She turned, surprised. Ethan stood near the door, jacket casual this time, hands in his pockets. He looked almost nervous. I was nearby, he said. I thought I would say hello. Her heart skipped. You came here? I hope that is okay. She glanced around the small cafe, suddenly aware of how ordinary it was. The scuffed floors, the mismatched chairs, the handwritten specials board behind the counter. This is where I work, she said. I know, Ethan replied. That is why I wanted to see it. They walked together after her shift ended, stopping at a small diner down the street. Nothing fancy. Booths with cracked vinyl seats and laminated menus that stuck slightly to the table. This is more my speed, Lily said with relief. Ethan smiled. Mine too, lately. They talked easily, laughter coming faster now. Lily told him about growing up in a small town, about losing her parents too early, about learning to stand on her own even when she felt anything but strong. Ethan shared pieces of himself, carefully chosen but honest. Long workdays, quiet evenings, the pressure of responsibility that never really went away. What he did not share was his title. Not yet. As the night wore on, Lily noticed the way people greeted him, the subtle respect in their tone, the confidence in his posture when decisions had to be made. It stirred a quiet question in her mind, but she did not ask. When they parted ways again, standing under a streetlight near her apartment, Lily hesitated. I am glad you came tonight, she said. So am I, Ethan replied. As he walked away, Lily watched him go, a strange mix of warmth and uncertainty settling in her chest. She felt closer to him now, more connected than she had expected so soon. What she did not know was that fate was already arranging their next meeting, and this time, the truth would not stay hidden much longer. The invitation arrived on a Thursday afternoon, tucked neatly between Lily's work schedules and overdue reminders. She almost ignored it. The envelope was heavier than expected, cream-colored, her name printed cleanly across the front. Inside was a simple card, a charity gala, formal attire, downtown. At first, Lily assumed it had been sent by mistake. People like her did not receive invitations like this. But then she noticed the small, handwritten note at the bottom. "I would like you to come with me, if you feel comfortable. Ethan." She read it twice, then once more. That night, Lily stood in front of her closet, staring at the limited options hanging inside. She borrowed a dress from her roommate, altered it carefully, and told herself that this was just another evening. Nothing more. Nothing dangerous. The building downtown was unlike anywhere she had ever been. Valet lines stretched across the entrance. Lights glowed from floor-to-ceiling windows. People moved with the quiet confidence of those who belonged. Ethan met her at the door. He looked different tonight, not warmer, not kinder, just larger somehow, more composed, more certain. "You look beautiful," he said. "So do you," Lily replied, though her voice wavered slightly. Inside, the room buzzed with conversation. People greeted Ethan with familiarity, with respect. Some shook his hand. Others waited patiently for his attention. Lily noticed the subtle shifts in posture when he passed. She tried not to read into it. They took their seats near the front. Lily smoothed her dress, heart pounding as the lights dimmed. A voice rose from the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. We are honored to welcome our guest of honor, the man whose leadership and generosity made this foundation possible." Lily's breath caught. "Please welcome Ethan Walker, Chief Executive Officer of Walker Industries." The room erupted in applause. For a moment, Lily did not move. She did not clap. She did not breathe. She turned slowly toward Ethan. He was already standing. Their eyes met, and in that instant, everything shifted. The dinners, the cafe, the quiet walks, the way he had listened, the way he had never corrected her. He stepped toward the stage as the applause continued, but Lily remained frozen in her seat, the words echoing in her ears. "Chief Executive Officer." Her chest tightened, heat rising to her face. Conversations around her blurred into noise. Suddenly, every moment replayed itself with new weight. She had told him about her struggles, her fears, her notebook. He had known who he was the entire time. When the applause faded, Lily stood abruptly, slipping past the row and into the hallway outside. Her hands shook as she pressed them together, trying to steady herself. A moment later, footsteps approached. "Lily," Ethan said softly. She turned, eyes flashing. "How long?" He stopped a few feet away. "From the beginning." She let out a sharp breath, disbelief and hurt colliding. "So all of it was real to me, and you were just watching." "That is not fair," he said quietly. "Is it not?" Her voice cracked. "You let me think you were someone else. You let me believe. I let myself forget who I was when I was with you," he interrupted. For the first time in years, silence stretched between them. "I did not lie," he continued. "I did not pretend. I just did not tell you everything." "That matters," Lily said. "You mattered to me." His expression softened. "You still do." She shook her head, stepping back. "I cannot be someone's experiment, or their escape." "You were never that," he said, but she was already turning away. As she walked out into the night, Lily felt the weight of something breaking inside her. Trust did not shatter loudly. It fell apart quietly, piece by piece. Behind her, Ethan stood alone in the hallway, applause still echoing faintly from the ballroom. For the first time, he realized the true cost of not telling the truth. And he knew that if he wanted to keep Lily in his life, words would no longer be enough. The days that followed felt longer than they should have. Lily returned to her routines because she did not know what else to do. She woke before sunrise, pulled on her uniform, and walked to the cafe with her head down, as if the city itself might ask her questions she was not ready to answer. She did not tell anyone about the gala, not her roommate, not her co-workers, not even herself, not fully. She folded the night away and treated it like a mistake she could outwork, but the truth had a way of resurfacing. Every time the cafe door opened, part of her looked up, expecting to see Ethan standing there, hands in his pockets, wearing that careful expression he had when he did not want to push too hard. He never came. At night, when the city quieted, the questions grew louder. Had any of it been real? Or had she simply been a brief escape for a man who could afford to disappear into someone else's life for a while? Lily hated herself for missing him. Across the city, Ethan sat alone in rooms that suddenly felt too large. Meetings blurred together. Applause felt hollow. People spoke to him the way they always had, with respect layered over caution, but none of it reached him. He replayed the moment in the hallway again and again, the hurt in Lily's eyes, the way she stepped back, not in anger, but in self-protection. That hurt him more than shouting ever could have. He drafted messages he never sent, apologies that sounded too polished, explanations that felt weak the moment he read them back. He knew the truth now. Lily did not need words. She needed proof. A week passed, then two. One evening, Lily stayed late at the cafe, wiping down tables long after closing. She opened her notebook and sketched without thinking, letting her pencil move the way her mind could not. The lines came out heavier than usual, darker, faces with guarded eyes, hands held too tightly. A shadow fell across the page. She looked up, startled. It was not Ethan. It was her manager, holding a small flyer. "Someone dropped this off for you," he said. Said it was important. Lily took it, confused. It was an announcement for a public art exhibit at a community space downtown. Local artists. Free admission. One featured name stood out. Lily Harper. Her breath caught. Attached to the flyer was a note, written in familiar handwriting. "I did not ask permission. If you hate this, I will take it down. But your work deserves to be seen, not because of me, because of you." There was no signature. There did not need to be. That night, Lily stood outside the community space, heart pounding, notebook clutched against her chest. Through the windows, she saw her sketches displayed simply, respectfully. No grand speeches, no spotlight, just her work, telling her story. Ethan stood off to the side, not approaching, not claiming anything. When their eyes met, he did not smile. He did not step forward. He waited. Lily walked slowly toward him, stopping a few feet away. "This was not what I asked for," she said quietly. "I know," Ethan replied. "It is what you deserved." She searched his face. "Why?" "Because I did not choose you for what you gave me," he said. "I chose you for who you are, and I should have trusted you with the truth from the beginning." Silence settled between them again, but it felt different this time, less sharp, more open. Lily did not forgive him that night, not fully, but as she looked around at her work on the walls, at the care behind every detail, she realized something important. He was no longer asking her to fit into his world, he was stepping into hers. And for the first time since the gala, Lily allowed herself to wonder if trust, once broken, could still be rebuilt. The exhibit stayed open late that night, long after most visitors had drifted away. Lily remained near the back of the room, watching strangers pause in front of her sketches. Some leaned closer, some nodded quietly. One woman wiped at her eyes without realizing it. Lily had drawn those faces during bus rides, between shifts, in moments when no one was supposed to be watching. Seeing them on the wall felt unreal. Ethan did not leave. He stayed at a respectful distance, answering questions when asked, deflecting praise, making it clear the night was not about him. When someone congratulated him, he redirected them gently toward Lily. "She is the artist," he said each time. "I just helped with the space." When the room finally emptied, Lily stepped outside into the cool air. The street was quiet, the city softened by the late hour. Ethan followed, stopping beside her under the glow of a streetlight. "You did not have to do all of this," she said, her voice steady but full. "I wanted to," he replied. "And I need you to hear something, without an audience." She waited. "I spent years believing that control meant safety," Ethan said. "That if I revealed only parts of myself, I could protect what mattered. But that night at the gala showed me something. I did not protect you. I protected myself." Lily looked down at her hands, still faintly smudged with pencil. "I am not angry anymore," she said, "but I am careful." "You should be," Ethan answered. "And I am not asking you to trust me again tonight." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, smaller than the gala invitation, less polished. "This is an offer," he continued, "not from my company, not from my foundation, from me." Inside was a simple proposal. Funding for a small community art program. Her name listed as director. Full creative control. No publicity requirement. No conditions tied to him. "I will step back completely if you say no," he said. "This is not a grand gesture meant to impress you. It is accountability." Lily read the page slowly, every word, every line. "You are giving me a choice," she said. "I should have done that from the beginning." She folded the paper and held it for a long moment. "I will not say yes tonight." Ethan nodded. I expected that. But, she added, meeting his eyes, I will not say no. The tension eased, just slightly. They walked together for a while, not touching, not rushing. At the corner near her apartment, Lily stopped. If this works, she said carefully, it works because we are honest. Every time, no matter how uncomfortable. Ethan did not hesitate. Agreed. She studied his face, searching for certainty, for ego, for fear. What she found instead was something quieter. Resolve. Lily extended her hand. Not a promise, not forgiveness, just a beginning. Ethan took it, gently. That night, as Lily climbed the stairs to her apartment, she felt something unfamiliar settle into her chest. Not certainty, not security, but the possibility of choosing love without losing herself. And for the first time, Ethan understood that real commitment was not about status or sacrifice. It was about standing still long enough to be chosen back. The weeks that followed unfolded quietly, without headlines or grand announcements. Lily accepted the role she had been offered, but on her own terms. She kept her job at the cafe for a while longer, easing into the new rhythm instead of leaping all at once. 3 afternoons a week, she taught free sketch classes at the community space. Children sat beside retirees. People who had never called themselves artists picked up pencils for the first time. Ethan did not attend the classes. He kept his distance, just as he promised. When they saw each other, it was outside of meetings and away from spotlights. Coffee walks, late dinners at simple places, long conversations that stretched until closing time. They talked about boundaries, about fear, about the cost of silence. Trust did not return all at once. It came back in fragments, in consistency, in the way Ethan answered questions without deflecting, in the way Lily asked without apologizing. One evening, months later, Lily stood alone in the community space, adjusting frames on the wall. A new exhibit was opening the next day. This one felt different, stronger, more confident. She stepped back, studying her work, when she heard familiar footsteps behind her. "You did this," Ethan said quietly. She smiled without turning around. "I had help." "You led," he replied. They stood there together, side by side, comfortable in the silence they had learned to share. "I have something to ask you," Ethan said after a moment. Lily turned to face him. "That sounds serious." "It is," he admitted, "but it is simple." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small object, not polished, not dramatic. A thin ring, understated, honest. "I will not ask you to fit into my world," he said, "and I will not promise perfection. What I can promise is truth, even when it is uncomfortable, and the choice to walk beside you, not ahead of you." Lily felt her breath catch, not from surprise, but from recognition. "This is not repayment," he continued, "and it is not rescue. It is an invitation." She looked at the ring, then at him. "I fell for you when I thought you were just a man on a blind date," she said softly. "That matters to me." "It matters to me too," Ethan said. "It always will." Lily reached out, taking the ring, turning it once between her fingers. "Yes," she said, "but only if we keep choosing each other the same way we started, honestly." Ethan smiled, relief and joy settling across his face. "Always." They did not announce it with fanfare, no press, no gala, just a small gathering at the community space weeks later. Coffee, laughter, sketchbooks left open on tables. When Lily stood beside Ethan that night, she was not a poor girl who had been discovered. She was a woman who had been seen. And Ethan was no longer a lonely chief executive hiding behind silence. He was a man who had learned that the greatest mistake of his life was also the most meaningful one. Taking a blind date for a friend, and falling in love, not with status or comfort, but with truth. Sometimes, the wrong table leads you to the right life. And sometimes, love begins the moment you stop pretending to be anyone else.